Okay, so now that we've set up our form, now we need to work on the back end. And the back end is all the settings, all the rules, all the workflows, and all the automations that needs to be done. So let's go into the rules menu. When you click on the rules are just something whereby you can be able to set workflows and automation, maybe based on the field, maybe based on the field, or based on each options, the contact filling, or based on a particular page on the form, or based on anything. So we have 5 different kind of rules you can use. We have the field rules, which is the rules based on the field input. So this is going to show or hide fields based on the respondent's input, and the choice based field rule is to show choices in a field based on respondent selection. And also there is form rules where you can configure the form based on the form submission. And we have for the page rule. So let's start with the field rule. What is field rule? So let's try to configure a field rule and see how it works. So a field rule is just saying that, you know what, if a person fill in a particular field, then an action should be triggered. So let's say we include the CRM you currently use is, maybe they pick the option HubSpot. Then you can show another field. You can even say if the option is any of, or you can say if the option starts with, or if it is none of. You can use any of this option, but I am using is any of. So if this field, which is called the CRM you currently use, is any of the options, so we choose the option we want to use. So if they're using Zoho, or if they're using HubSpot, we can decide that we want to show another field. So you can click on show another field, or you can click on even hide another field, or you can decide to show group choices if you want. And because we have no group available, so it's not going to show anything, so you just go back to show and you pick the fields you want to show. So since they are picking HubSpot and Zoho, we can decide that we want to show this particular field where we are asking for their CRM workflow PDF. We believe that they are using a CRM currently, and if they're using a current CRM, then we can be able to get their current CRM workflow. So you can decide to show this field, and you can even decide to add another thing and another action, and you just click on maybe hide. So if they're using any of the CRM you want to, so let's say if they're using a current CRM, we can decide to hide maybe company logo, and you click on done, and that is going to hide this field. So if they're picking this, it is going to hide this. When you add in all of these criteria, if you add the condition, then you add the then field, then you can click on add, and that is going to add the rule, the first rule. You can say you want to add in another rule, and let's say something like so let's say if they pick, do you have a sales team? When we ask them, do you have a sales team, if it contains no, if they say they do not have a sales team, then we can decide to hide. Also, we can decide to hide the parts where we ask them to add multiple team members. So you click on done, and when you click on done, you can decide to add this already. Remember that you can change the rule name if you want. You can decide to change this rule name to whatever you want, and when you are done, you click on done, and that is for the field rules. So that is for the field rules. You can also switch to advanced rules if you want, and you click on yes, and it is going to take you to where you can create the advanced rule. So when you click on add rule over here, now for the advanced rule, this is quite complicated, so you want to be very careful when you are creating this. So let's say we want to use some conditions, and we want to say that if the email is not empty, that means they fill in their email, and we can decide to add in a subgroup over here. And as you can see, a subgroup has been added. Okay, so you can decide to add another subgroup if you want, but let's just stick with this first. So we want to say that if the email is not empty, and we want to also check if the website is not empty. Remember that you can use various options, and the last one should be if the number of employee is let's say the number of employee is between 10 to 15. So we can say all these actions if any of this action happens. Now this is where the complication might come in. You know, we are the A1, we have A1 here and we have A2. And remember, we can even decide to add another one for A4, but we do not need that yet. So let's just remove that. So for A1, we can decide that is either this first one happen and this one happen and the last one happen. So if every of this happen, then this rule can be triggered. So that means we can decide to say if the email is not empty and the website is also not empty and the number of employees is between 10 and 50, then an action can be carried out. But you can also use or. So you can say and or. So that means if the email is not empty and the website is not, or the website is not empty, so it's going to pick between both of them. So that means we do not need to wait for both of them to be fulfilled before this workflow is triggered. We can just say if the email is not empty, or the website is not empty, then the and is going to come in between A3, A2 and A3. Oh my god. Is that complicated? Yeah, it is. Okay, so let me just recap a bit. So we are saying that for A1, we are saying A1 or A2 should happen before this trigger can be done. We can also change this to and. So and means that both A1 and A2 must happen for this trigger to work. And we are using and also here. So that means A1 and A3 must also happen with A1, A2, A3 must happen before this trigger can work. If both of them are hand, if we're using or here and we're using or here, we are saying that if any of this happen, so A1 or A2 or A3 can trigger this workflow. You know, the best way to actually track this is by using this thing here. You see this rule expression, it will help a lot because it can be very confusing. This is where you can be able to get it. So the rule expression is going to help you if you want to be able to check in for this trigger. So if you pick all of these, then you can click on show, or you can click on hide, or you can decide to even set some field as mandatory. So you can decide that if the email is showing up, we want to know if they have a sales team or want to know the contract renewal month. You know, you can just pick whatever field you want to make compulsory and you click on done and you click on add. When you click on add, and that has been added. So let's move to the choice-based field rules. And for the choice-based field rules, let me just quickly try to explain it so it is pretty understandable. So you know how if you have we have the field where it said which CRM you currently use. So we can have that field first, and we can decide that if they pick HubSpot, we can show another field where it is going to ask them for which HubSpot plan they are using. Yeah, so that is how this choice-based field rules work. So if they pick HubSpot, we can decide that to show another option where it is going to show maybe marketing plan in HubSpot, or the sales professional or the marketing professional plan, whichever plan they are using currently in HubSpot, then it can show up. So let's try to configure it and see how this works. So let's click which CRM they currently use. Then the other one which I just created is CRM you currently have. Then when you click on this, you can click on next. So this is how this is going to work. So let's add this. So if the CRM they currently use is HubSpot, then we click on done. Then we can decide to show all choices, or we can decide to show to choose manually. And let's just imagine that this is the pricing plan for each of Zoho, HubSpot, and each of them. Then you can just pick. Let's imagine that this is marketing plan, and let's imagine that this is professional plan. for HubSpot. You can just pick these two and click on done. So that means whenever they pick HubSpot, it is going to show the choices that we have in CRM you currently have. So this can be the CRM you currently use, and this can be the pricing, this can be the plans for each CRM. I hope that's not confusing. So the first one will be for CRM you currently use, and the next one will be the plans for each of the CRM. So we can decide to choose all choices, or we can decide to show each of them, or we can even decide to hide all of the choices, and we can decide to choose manually. So you can add in for another one. You can add in the CRM you currently use is Zoho, and you can click on done. And you can also, if it's Zoho, you can decide to choose manually and choose the pricing plans for Zoho. So that means this CRM you currently have must have all of the plans for Zoho CRM, or maybe Zoho 1. You can be able to ask them based on what they pick. So if they pick Zoho, and let's imagine this is a plan in Zoho. Let's say this is Zoho 1, and this is the standard plan, the professional plan. You can be able to pick each of these and just add that in. So when you are done, you click on done, and this. So you click on done, and when you're done, you click on save, and your choice-based feed rule has been added. You can decide to add another one if you want, and you can go to your form rules, and for form rules, this is going to be triggered based on a form submission. When you click on configure now, we can decide to create this as rule 1, and we can say that we want to add in let's say if the web email is not empty, then we can decide to redirect to a page. We can decide to redirect to a thank you page, or we can even decide to redirect to another website or another form in Zoho CRM. You can pick another form that you have, or you can even decide that you want to redirect to the same form they just submitted. So if the email is not empty, you can decide to redirect to your website. So you can just add in the link to your website in here, and you can say in the same window or in a new window, and you can even add in another message. So the splash message can be thank you for filling this form, or whatever it is you want to add. And when you are done, you just click on done. So let's just add into another form and personalized CRM questions. So when the email is not empty, we want to ask them personalized CRM questions. That's another form. When you are done, you can click on done. So that has been saved. You can click on add another rule, and you can decide also that if they pick a multiple choice, let's say they pick the CRM they currently use is maybe Pipedrive. Let's say they pick Pipedrive, then we can decide to assign a task, or we can even decide to send an email to someone, or we can decide to send an SMS to, you can decide to send an SMS to them. You can decide to send an email to them. You can decide to send an SMS. You can decide to assign a task, and you can even push notifications to mobile if you want. So let's say we want to assign a task, and if they say the CRM they currently use is Pipedrive, we can decide to assign this to a user that is in charge of Pipedrive. So we just pick the user and we click on add. So if they pick Pipedrive as their CRM, and we just assign this task to the person in charge of Pipedrive. So that's for form rules. So for page rules needs me to have 3 pages. So that's fine. I'm going to create 3 pages. So let's add in another page. Let's add in a page break. And remember that to add in a page, you just need to add in a page break, and that is going to split your page into 2. So we can decide to add this as personal info, I guess. So we have added another page, personal info. Then we click on save. Then we go back to our rules. So we can now add in a page rule, and let's try to configure this. So now when they select, let's say we want to configure this rule for company info, now we can decide to allow them skip to a particular page. So for them to be able to skip to the third page from the first page, we can say if they picked okay, so on the first page, we can say if they fill in their job title, or let's say if the job title contains, let's say it contains manager. So if the job title contains manager, we can say that we want them to skip to page 3. Page 3 is your CRM needs. So they can skip to page 3. So if none of the above is satisfied, that means if the job title does not contain manager, what should happen? Then if it does not contain manager, it should just go to the second page, which is personal info. So let me come again. So for this new rule for this page, we are saying that if the job title, remember that you can use anything. So if the job title contains manager, we do not want them to fill page 2. We want them to go directly to page 3. Then when they go directly to page 3, they can skip to page 3. But if the job title does not contain manager, which is this one, we want them to go to page 2. So that is how this works. And when you're done, you click on add. And when you click on add, this page rule has been added. You can also decide to deny submission from certain people. So let's say that we have people for and they put in a checkbox, or they put in a CRM you currently do not work with, and they say their CRM, let's say we are not working with Pipedrive, and they say their CRM is Pipedrive. And when they click on Pipedrive, you can just say that, you know what, we do not want to work with these people. So you just show a denial message. So you can show a denial message and say, sorry, we do not work with Pipedrive, or sorry, we cannot accept your submission because we do not work with this particular software. So let me just add in a message. So we can say, sorry, we do not work with Pipedrive, and that will be the message that is going to show up if they pick on Pipedrive. And remember that you can also add in a subgroup, and the subgroup is going to be and or. So you can say if they pick Pipedrive, or if or let's say their number of employees is greater than 50, then we can decide not to work with them, and we can just show this error message also. So when you do that, you can click on and or, and you can also click on add when you do all of these settings. So now that we are done with the rules section in Zoho Forms, let's do a recap of how each of those rules work. So for the first one, which is the field rule, so this controls whether specific fields are shown or hidden based on a respondent input. So that means that if they put in a field, we can decide that we want to show the next field, or we want to hide the next field. You can do this for any of the fields you have in your form. So for example, let's say that we have a job application form, and if someone selects currently employed, we can decide to show an additional field asking them for the employer's name, or if they pick not employed, then we can decide to hide that field. And also another example is if they pick in their employment status is employed, we can decide that we want to show certain fields, or we can decide to hide certain fields. So this will keep your form clean and relevant for each person that is filling in a form. So instead of showing all of the unnecessary fields on your form, you can decide to hide some, and you can decide to show some based on the options that they are picking. So the next one is the choice-based field rule, and how this works is that instead of hiding the entire fields, and you can decide to show or hide based on specific answers. So let's say that we have some, and you should remember that this rule only work with your multi-choice answers. So for instance, we have the one for drop down, we have the one for checkbox, and we have the one for radio. So these are the fields that this particular rule work for. So let's say, for example, we have a course guideline, or let's say we have a particular coaching program, and if we want to ask them for the course level that they want, and when they pick beginner, so they can pick beginner, intermediate, or advanced. So you can decide that the next question which they will be able to select their course, it is going to be based on what they picked in the first one. So if they pick beginner, you can decide that you only want to show the option for beginner courses, or if they pick intermediate, you can decide to only show courses that are for intermediate level, and if they pick advanced, you can decide that you want to only show courses that are for advanced level. So that is how the choice based field work. So the difference between the field rules and the choice-based field rules is that field rules control the whole of the fields. So everything, it controls the whole fields in your form, whether it is choice field or whether it is the name field, you name it, whichever one it is. But the choice-based rule only control the option inside all of those fields. So it only deals with choice based responses. So the next one is the form rules, and the form rules is going to happen when this form has been submitted. All of this rule applied when a respondent has submitted a form. So you can do all of these actions. You can decide to redirect them to a custom page. You can also decide to send them straight to download a ebook that you want them to download, or you can decide to send them to another link, or you can even decide that based on the field that you have put in, if they have a certain budget, you can decide to assign to a task, or if their annual revenue is over $100,000, you can decide to assign them a task, and the task will be assigned to a user in the form in Zoho Forms. You can also decide that you want to send an email to them if an option is picked. You can decide to send them SMS based on the options that they have picked also, and you can also decide to push to mobile when they pick a particular field. So it is based on your discretion to pick whichever action you want this form to perform when the form is submitted. So the next one, which is the page rule. So the page rules can be used when you have long or multi-page forms, and remember that you must have up to 3 pages before you can use the page rules. It's going to help you allow the respondents to skip particular pages that are not necessary to them. So for instance, we can say that if their job title is manager, they should skip the second page and just go to the third page. So that is how this works. So for deny submission, we have where, and as the name implies, it blocks someone from filling in the form. So for example, if we only want to open this form to people in the US, or we only want to open this form to people from Nigeria or people from Germany, wherever you use it you want, you can decide that if any other person fill in this form and they are not from any of the country you want, you can decide to deny this submission, and you can just respond with this error message and just say something like, sorry, we do not work with people from your region. So you just you can tweak it however you want. You can even say if their annual revenue is less than $100,000, you can say, sorry, we do not work with business of your size. Or if the business has more than 100 employees, you can say, sorry, we do not work with businesses that have more than 100 employees. So just tweak this whichever way you want. Just be creative about it.